It is Thursday. Happy Thursday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Therapy Thursday. I am Dr. Triffy. How are you? How are you? It's another Therapy Thursday. Every Thursday I show up for Transforming Trauma podcast with Dr. Triffy. I am a licensed psychologist in Atlanta, Georgia. And I show up on Thursdays to teach strategies to help us think better so we can feel better and hopefully do better. So, you hear my accent? I live in Atlanta. I've lived in Atlanta for almost 30 years, a long time. But I've maintained my accent because my brain does not want me to release it because it wants me to tell you every time we meet that I'm from Dominica. Not to be confused with the Dominican Republic. We love them a lot, but we're a completely different country. Okay, we are further south. Further south. And we are just leaving our carnival season in Dominica. Yesterday was Ash Wednesday, and we've had a month long worth of celebrations that culminated on Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras, like you all say in New Orleans. And I wanted to share a little taste of our music. I have a DJ from Dominica that I started following on YouTube. His name is DJ Smooth. Yeah, DJ Smooth Forever Hype. Okay, so check him out if you want to get a taste of Dominican music. Now we have this nice mix of music in Dominica that's been building on traditions of French based African rhythms we call cadence. And the music has been elevating and evolving into what we now call bouillon music. Yeah, a bouillon is a bit of a soup, but it's not a soup. It's just really tasty. It's you can use the word bouillon for gravy in food, or you can use it, say, if you do a fish soup. We love that in Dominica. We call it a braf, honey. So I want to give you a little sample. So while the people come in, listen to a little bouillon from DJ Smooth Forever Hype, y'all. Subscribe to the man's channel on YouTube.
This music, you open a new dimension of lifestyle.
Can you hear it?
It's the best music in the world.
The best music in the world.
Follow me and let yourself be enchanted with beats and bases from my world.
Yes.
Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, live on stage, DJ Smooth on the world.
This mix is brought to you exclusively by your number one DJ. 100% hit guaranteed.
That's what we do, y'all. That's what we do in Dominica. Yes, yes, yes. Come on in, y'all. Come on in. Come on into the room. I want to listen to the rhythms, but I can't. We've got to talk tonight. Hi, Jess. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. What do y'all think about that music? For those of my people, especially those of you who've never heard bouillon music or Dominica music, and you're wondering, where is that Dominica? Seriously, go to YouTube and type in Bouyon. Give you a little taste of Dominica music. So this is what we love. We love these rhythms. So yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm happy you're here. Tonight I feel like talking about relationships, and I am talking about the impact of a cheating father on a daughter as an adult when she's in a romantic relationship. Okay? I'm also talking about the impact, potentially, of an overbearing mother. Everyday word, a bossy, controlling helicopter mom on a son in his adult relationship. You all ready? If you have any questions, type it in the chat. If you have any questions, type it in the chat. I want to share a story with you. This is not uncommon for many therapists who encounter clients who might come in and say something like, I have never recovered from learning that my dad was cheating on my mom. And decades later, I'm still working through it. Hmm? There's someone, I would say that person I can say is an aggregate of many clients I've worked with who actually met her father's mistress at the age of 9. She didn't really know it at the time, but she was in the car, hmm, when her dad picked up this person. And over time, she figured it out. What she says is that her dad's philandering, her dad's cheating, impacted her whole life because it made her feel unworthy and doubting of herself as a child, as a teenager. And as a result, she grew up distrusting men and has always felt somehow angry and a little bit out of control. So here's the real deal. Here's what the research consistently shows about the impact or the influence of parents in general on shaping their children's lives. So parents have a huge impact on the shaping of a child's self-esteem, on the way they look at themselves, their self-image, their confidence, level of confidence, their opinions about people of the other sex, and on their love life, on their love life. So, like I said, I want to explore the impact of a cheating dad on a daughter as an adult in a romantic relationship, and the impact of an overbearing mother on a boy when he's now an adult in a relationship. Okay, let's talk about cheating dads and the adult daughters. What the research is showing is that daughters of unfaithful fathers tend to have less trust in men, lower expectations of their relationships, and a lack of confidence. And this is not easy to overcome. This is not very easy to overcome because many of our dads serve as the template, the model for us when we're choosing a mate for long term. I've been watching TikTok lately and I've seen several parents, many of them dads, who are saying, hey, I am traveling with my little girl so that she's not going to be overly impressed when you offer her some trinket. Because look, we're doing big things together. So our parents are often a model for us. Okay? So positive, not positive, but possible negative outcomes in the relationship. Therefore, for a daughter who has learned that dad is a cheater, and I'm especially talking about dads who are what I would call serial cheaters, who where that is just the thing, because very often we have infidelity in relationships, but parents are able to keep that from the kids. But once a child becomes privy to this and feels and sees the impact, especially on the other parent, it can lead to very negative outcomes in relationships for them. So Think about this. Number one, lack of trust in your safety provider. That's an overwhelming feeling, an overwhelmingly burdensome feeling for an adult woman in a relationship. Why is that? If we are groomed to believe that our mates are supposed to provide for us and protect us emotionally, and the model you have is that men don't do that, and that men leave you unprotected and emotionally unsafe, this is a setup for a woman to expect something similar from her mate. And often it's not conscious, meaning it's not on your brain every day, but there's a low grade feeling of insecurity and anxiety and ambivalence when it comes to attaching intimately. I'm not talking physical attachment because that's very easy to do. You don't need much, you just need two adults. But I'm talking about connecting hearts. It is highly anxiety provoking for many women who, as girls, as teenagers, experienced their fathers cheating on their mothers. There's also a dynamic that uh, expresses itself in a way like, I love you, but I hate you. So your mate, yeah, I love you, but the simplest thing you do might send me into a space of such disappointment that I think I am feeling towards you, but which might really be deeper than that, which might be the child in me re experiencing the trauma of learning that my dad is a cheater. So it's a tremendous sense of feeling unsafe emotionally. There's a question of worthiness also that is attached to low self esteem that can escalate, build in a daughter who's experienced her father cheating. And so that could lead to the question, am I really worthy of the love this man is saying he feels towards me? Am I really worthy of it? And when is the other shoe going to drop? When am I going to find out that he's not who he says he really is? Because if my dad, the person who's worthy of my trust, dads are almost godlike to little girls, to kids in general. And if my almost my God representative can break my trust, can be disloyal to me, because he is being disloyal to me when he cheats on my mom. Because kids, it's hard for kids to separate. When we're that young, it's hard for us to separate. Then how can I trust that this man really, really, really has my back? So a sense of guarding yourself emotionally can show up because it's hard to believe this man has your back. And a lot of men might feel as if you're fighting shadows. You're giving this woman everything, and it seems like the more you give is the more she wants. A sense of paranoia, that feeling of when is the other shoe going to drop? When is this person going to show their true colors? It won't be long now. And so you walk around on eggshells and guard your heart so that you're not giving your whole self just in case. The thing is, though, the person, the mate that you're doing this with, didn't earn that. So that mate is paying the bill for your cheating dad. That mate, your husband, your fiance, your long term partner, could be paying the bill for your cheating dad. Okay? I have a couple of questions for some of you, for you ladies especially. If this is resonating with you, do you find that you're emotionally distant in your relationships? That piece where, yeah, I give so much, but there's a huge chunk of me that I hold back just in case, so that I am not so quote unquote disappointed when that other shoe drops. Here's another question. Do you find that you shut down emotionally when you're confronted? it can feel very overwhelming. The word for it is flooding. A lot of us, it's a trauma response. It's like the emotions are so big, uh, they can feel overwhelming, like so much that instead of continuing to use our words, we go into our childlike responses where we might have escaped, And to escape means to escape could show itself up as shutting down and just not talking anymore and stonewalling in your relationship. Loyalty issues, just this can play both ways because what ends up happening with some women is that they themselves, as a way to emotionally protect themselves, could become the cheater. Okay? Could become the cheater. Loyalty issues could also show up in the sense that, again, you're just always expecting the other person not to do right by you, not to have your back. Now, when you have experiences like that, what happens as a young person, if you find out your dad has cheated on your mom, there's going to be a good parent and a bad parent. And if dad was the cheater, dad's the bad parent. Hmm? And mom becomes the wounded, the hurt one that all your rescue efforts go towards because you don't want to see your mom hurting. And it can cause such a rift between you and your father. Some of it is never recovered. The relationship might never be recovered. The thing is, as kids, it's hard to make sense out of everything. So nothing, or let me say very few things, are black and white. And so we don't have dad's full story. Very often, dad does not even have the full story because many dads do not know why they're cheating. Many cheaters do not understand themselves well enough to know why they're cheating. So it can lead to a lot of chaos, emotional chaos in kids, and a lot of that internal sense of not being able, unpredictability lingers in you as an adult, and it shows itself up in the relationship. Okay? Here's another one. Like I said earlier, some women might actually act out as the disloyal one. So you might learn that it's, if dad can do it, if my dad can do it, I can do it. So, what can you do if you're a partner to a woman with that history? Here's some suggestions. Okay. I think it is very important to reassure your mate who's had that kind of history by actions. What you're going to have to do is keep your word. Keep your word. Say what you mean what you say. Back up your talk with actions to build trust and dependability over time. Because this is a wound. And again, y'all, many of our childhood wounds show up in relationships. Relationships really are supposed to be a safe place for us to work through some of those wounds we suffered in childhood. And so, a supportive mate who understands that about your past ought to be doing a bang up job in saying what they meaning what they say, following through on commitments. I would suggest asking your woman how she feels often. How do you feel about this? How do you feel? How do you feel? How do you feel? And that is through communication and a willingness to be vulnerable and to become more intimate. I would also suggest creating opportunities and taking advantage of opportunities for her to learn to depend on you again. And I've said before that I'm not big on automatic trust. There's no such thing, I believe, but I think over time we can prove, we can demonstrate our dependability and our trustworthiness based on our actions, again, over time. The key is to build emotional safety. Help your mate, provide space in the relationship so that your mate can let their guard down enough to start feeling safe emotionally through communication with you, through, again, opportunities for you to show I'm here, and I'm here for you, I am here with you. Always I'm going to recommend therapy. Always I'm going to recommend therapy because many of us are not clear at all why we're doing what we're doing as adults. And very often the adult must go back, must return to childhood to rescue the child in us, to help us, to reparent us sometimes, because our biological parents or whomever our caregivers were might not have the emotional wherewithal to help us find that closure that some of us are looking for. So sometimes we have to do that job as adults. If you're a parent who's visiting this trauma upon your family, upon your daughters, I would encourage you to find a good therapist. Find a good therapist. Find a good therapist because uh, my guess is it's not the adult in you, it's not your wise self making the choice to cheat at a subconscious level. It's a wounded child in you that is looking for something, that is looking for a part of himself in extramarital relationships and in uh, actions that are not loyal to your commitment or not loyal to your word. Okay? So that's what I want to offer to daughters, adult daughters of fathers who cheated on their moms, and for your mates. Okay, second piece. Second piece is the impact of an overbearing mother on a son, who of course becomes a man and is now in a relationship. Uh, Ladies, boys need to be respected. Boy kids need respect. I'll start off with that, right? So, according to BetterHelp.com, BetterHelp is an organization that provides a lot of teletherapy. They hire many therapists around the country and they do a lot of services, a lot of therapeutic work. So, according to their blog, people with overbearing mothers or an overbearing parent, but tonight we're talking about overbearing moms, helicopter moms, are more likely to struggle with making decisions, as in decisiveness, making commitments and keeping them, suffering from anxiety, having low self esteem, and feeling uncomfortable in leadership positions. Now, how is that problematic? In our culture, over here anyway, and around most of the world, the man in the relationship is seen as the one who is supposed to be in the leadership position. Now, how is that going to work? Well, if the leader in the union is experiencing high anxiety, low self esteem, has trouble being decisive, making decisions. First off, well, let me reverse a little bit. Let me say that instead. Here are some signs of a controlling parent. And again, that parent tonight, we're talking about a controlling mother towards a son. There are many of us, moms, who demand blind obedience and conforming to whatever rule we set in the house. Many of you who are listening to me, we are from Dominica and the Caribbean. And listen, If mom says jump, your next question many of us grew up with was, how high, mom? Hmm? So many of us are at risk. Okay, many of our men are at risk. A controlling mother might not allow her child, her son, to participate in her decisions or to even question the decision. Again, the question is, how high do you want me to jump? And they may go as far as not allowing their sons to make their own decisions. They don't encourage choice, they don't encourage independence. They dictate every aspect of their child's life. They offer help without their child even asking. Now, that's all well and good for a boy up to what, preteen, 10, 11. But when a boy starts hitting puberty, starts hitting a level of understanding about himself and his choices, boy kids are in desperate need of respect. I think that mothers who raise their sons alone are more at risk of this because it's hard to do both roles as a single mother. And I think single mothers hold a lot of anxiety about doing it right, doing it well, and raising their sons well, and not necessarily feeling comfortable administering discipline. That can feel very painful for mothers, can feel very painful. I think that's why many of our mothers would say, we'll wait until your dad gets home. Because a lot of mothers can't take their children getting corrected. It feels painful. So, how might that impact an adult son of a mother who was extremely overbearing? Often, adult sons of controlling mothers, let's say they live in a world of contradictions and silence. So many a common response is uh, feeling anxiety about expressing what they want, their wishes, for fear of the consequences. If I have learned that in order to receive love, I have to essentially be perfect, I have to watch what I say and how I say it for fear of the repercussions. I think that's where that maybe that word, that simping word, uh, might be relevant, where a man might downplay his own emotional needs or his own feelings for fear of seeming weak. But the result of that is he does not speak up for himself. And so, maybe in an attempt also to appear like the strong man, as an exaggerated response, yeah, he might keep silent instead of communicating what he's truly feeling. Okay? So, um, what does that make a man vulnerable to then? If I cannot, not that I cannot, if I feel so uncomfortable expressing my true feelings for fear of the response from my mate, what might we have instead? Instead, we might have denial and lying. Denial, lying, and sometimes making promises that we already know, that they already know they're not going to keep the peace, to keep the peace. But if you know you're not going to keep the commitment, in a way, what's happening is you're delaying the explosion. Because, of course, there's going to be a response from your mate if you lie. Lie to protect. We lie often to protect ourselves and to protect our emotions. If I say, yes, I'm going to do this, but I know for sure I'm not going to do it, I'm postponing the disagreement and the argument. But that can feel now very painful for the mate who's experiencing their man that they have been trained perhaps to think is the leader of the relationship, no lying, no not keeping his commitments. Okay? That's a survival mechanism. That's a survival mechanism because again, it's a way is a pattern that could start off in a boy as not wanting to disappoint his mother, not wanting to feel the guilt that mom will heap on him for being a bad boy. You're a bad boy, as opposed to listening and having a proper flow of communication. And I'll give a couple examples later on, teaching her boy to express his feelings in a meaningful way, in a healthy way. She might, "You're a bad boy. You're a bad boy. Why did you not fix your bed? You're a bad boy," as opposed to, "Hey son, you could have done this in a different way. I don't like it when you act in this way, but you're a good boy. You're always a good boy." A controlling mother always creates insecure attachment because you can't trust it. You can't trust when your mother's going to be yelling at you, calling you bad. And so you're not sure. It's another walking on eggshells situation with a mother like that because I always have to show my good self. Now, boys, and we talk about masculinity and femininity. In our culture, masculine energy is about competition, controlling, conquering, doing. So imagine what a boy in that position has to do. What he has to do is to sublimate, you know, find a different way to express his natural bent towards what some of us might call aggression. Hmm? Uh, and that can look pretty ugly when we have not taught our boys how to express, say, their rage or their anger or their disappointment. You can have an overly exaggerated response when the person is now an adult and they're in the situation where, no, I'm the quote unquote leader. How am I going to do this if I didn't learn these leadership skills? Which many leadership skills are rooted in my ability to communicate what I want, what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and what I want. Okay, so here's another potential uh, repercussion on adult relationships of boys who grew into men under the tutelage and training of overbearing mothers. How many of you are familiar with the mother who her son is married, but she is not far away? She's never far. She's interfering in his romantic relationships. She's now starting to interfere to the point where the wife is frustrated with her husband for you're not speaking up on my behalf. You're letting your mother say whatever she wants to say to me. Hmm? Many of these mothers have not learned how to respect their sons' boundaries, respect their sons as separate from them, respect their sons now as men who have a right to their independence and separateness from them. So that can be very negatively impacting on many relationships. So, what's the fix? What are some fixes? What are some fixes? So, if you are the wife, if you are the girlfriend, if you are the whatever your name is that you've decided in your relationship with a man with that history who might be acting in this kind of way, I would say you have a lot of work to do in supporting your mate by number one, appreciating them for what they do. Appreciation, appreciation, appreciation. Making them right even when you don't agree. How do you do that? Everybody has a right to say, think, feel, be, do whatever they want. We might disagree, but we can always find a way to appreciate that person's point of view. We can always find a way to say something like, I don't agree with what you're saying, but I can see how you might see it this way. Or, you know, somehow I never thought of it that way. This is the first time I'm considering it from that perspective. Hmm? We can be curious first instead of being judging first. So, curiosity versus judgment. That means your mate lies. You catch him clearly in a lie, as opposed to becoming his mother with the bad boy, bad boy, bad boy first. What if you appreciated and you said something like, I can appreciate, I can see why you chose to not tell me the truth. How could you do that? You can do that because you're a human being who understands that sometimes we lie to protect ourselves, to stop arguments. Yeah. However, I feel very sad, or I felt very disappointed. I felt very anxious or afraid when that happened. Hmm? What do you think about telling me the truth the first time, the next time we have a situation like this? And is there something I can do to help you to remember how to do that so that we can do better together? Because this feels overwhelming for me that I can't trust your word. That's one way to do it versus bad boy, bad boy, bad boy. He's the worst in the world. You're telling your auntie, you're telling your sisters, your girlfriends, girl, this boy is such a dog, is such a liar, such a liar. Again, relationships, a big function of relationships is about helping us heal wounds from childhood. So it can't just be about the goodness and the sweetness. It can't, relationships are not going to be just about the sweetness, because these wounds are going to show up in the relationship. And we have to know that. 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 Okay? If you are a mother and you think, if you're even wondering, could that be me? That might be you. Okay? So, here are some potential fixes for you, like right now. If you're the mother of a son, particularly if you're the only parent in the home, because I understand how overwhelming that can feel when you don't have the backup, or you don't have another adult in the home with common sense who has lived in a male body in the home to help you navigate raising a boy. Number one, ask your son to share his thoughts more. And sit and listen. Sit and listen. So, for example, again, you're a parent. Very often you're going to have to administer correction. But before you move to your judgment, practice curiosity. Son, I don't understand why you did it, but I can see how you might have thought it was the right thing to do in the moment. But can you tell me more? So practice curiosity. Can you help me understand what's going through your mind, or what was going through your mind yesterday when you hit that boy in class? As opposed to bad boy, bad boy, bad boy automatically, which is where many of us go, mothers, if we're responding just emotionally. I would say when we have to vent these strong feelings, text your son. All the preteens have a phone right now. Text that young man and ask for time. Ask him for his time, because he might want to play his video game and he might not be ready for you to just pour out all of your yucky feelings and your frustrations. This is especially important if you're feeling highly stressed, if you don't have support from his dad, and you're feeling overwhelmed. I would say calm yourself down first. Yeah, get out of your feeling brain and get into your thinking brain. How can you calm yourself down? Deep breathing, go sit on a park bench somewhere, watch the sunset, listen to some music first. Calm yourself down first. Regulate your own emotions first before you apply correction, because if you're doing it from a highly emotional state, the result might not be as efficient as if you calm yourself down, get into your thinking brain. Again, especially if you're the only parent. Okay? I would say remind your son of his right to choose whatever action he wants to, but inform him of the consequences. So you have every right to not make up your bed. That's your right as a human being. Teach him that he's got a right to make his choices, but that he also has a right to his consequences. So sometimes a kid would be like, I don't mind this consequence. Then you might have to up your game and up your consequence. Find out their currency. So you telling him he can't watch TV might not work as well. He might be like, yeah, I can do without watching TV. But that phone, don't play with the phone. So make your son right, because he has a right. You want to teach him to exist in his rights, to choose, because you're training a leader. How can I train a leader if I'm telling the leader everything to do? At what point does the leader start to use his own mind? And so we have to train our children younger to use their own minds. And we can do that, Caribbean parents, and still maintain our posture as the head of the household. Okay? Again, how you might do that is to make them right for what they did wrong, and you tell them how you feel about it. You have every right to not make your bed, but when you don't make your bed, I feel overly burdened. I feel exhausted. I feel frustrated. What do you think? What do you, my son, think about making your bed as soon as you get up? Hmm. And is there something I can do to help you to remember to make your bed as soon as you get up, so that I don't feel so frustrated with you, and that it's I'm less likely to yell, which is what you don't like. Again, I think this is a much bigger problem for mothers who don't have the support of a father right then and there in the home, because if you have that support, you have a balance. You have another human being to help you. Like, on a jury there are six people, not just one juror, right? Sometimes you look at a situation and you're reading it from a certain angle, but there are six other potential ways to look at it. That's why I think it's important to practice curiosity with our kids before we go to judgment. And I understand it's hard to learn new skills, because many of us grew up with a template where whatever our parents said, they were right. And that was it. And so if we did not do anything to learn about other parenting strategies, that's our go-to, that's our default. So I know it feels uncomfortable. I've had many parents ask me, what do you mean tell him he's right? Well, you're not saying you agree with him, you're saying you can see how this is the way they saw it, this is the perspective they were looking at the situation from. But now you get to educate them with your emotional response to whatever it is they did or didn't do. Because if we're going to be like this, mothers, especially on our boys, you neuter him. You neuter his leadership capabilities, and you're not setting him up well for his romantic relationships, where society is calling on him to be the leader. And his wife is going to be like, what kind of man are you? Ladies, we talk like that, don't we? You're no kind of man. You're not doing, you're not. Now, this is a boy who might have been raised with a mother with that kind of temperament, who's like, you're not, you're not. And who learned to be docile, to keep the peace, to survive his childhood, to survive childhood. So definitely consider therapy. Definitely consider therapy if you are that mother raising a son, especially if you're raising a son alone and you don't have another human being in the home with you who lived in a male body and who might understand his little wackiness. Girls, we grow up playing with dolls. We don't get little boys running around causing mayhem and madness, but that's their way. So, having a dad, so dads, your role is so important in the home. We need both. We need the template from both parents. And I believe that one really powerful gift that having two parents in the home raising children, one powerful gift is that jury effect. It's not just one person making a determination on a particular behavior. You have two people. And at any given time, one of those people, one of those parents lived and grew up in that body. So they'll be able to relate well, but it becomes more burdensome when you have one parent having to essentially learn a language that they just have no idea. A woman, a mother has never lived in a man's body. She doesn't understand a boy when he hits puberty. It's hard for mothers, single mothers, to understand a boy, especially when he hits puberty. Okay? And in our source culture, Caribbean people, meaning in our African cultures, there are lots of community rituals about a boy turning into a man that we've lost in our separation. Yeah. And I am not sure that we have many new rituals that have replaced that. You know, I guess you might say confirmation, but not really. Not everybody goes through confirmation. Confirmation is one of those rituals where I remember growing up in Dominica where they would tell you, okay, you're grown now, you're an adult now, you've done your confirmation. But I don't know if that carries the same weight anymore. They might allow you to have a boyfriend, a girlfriend after you got confirmed. I don't know that we have many of those rites of passage rituals that make a clear demarcation that you're no longer a boy. But definitely, if we look at it, the preteen years, moving into puberty, mothers especially, and I say that because I've lived in a mother's body, it can feel very hard and painful for our boys when we fail to respect them. When we fail to respect them, it takes us too long, many of us, I think, to respect our boys. I think it needs to start way earlier. And one way you can do that without feeling as if you've surrendered your parental rights to disciplining your child is to just off the bat make your child, girl or boy, right for their action, their words, their feelings. Even if you disagree, you're saying, I can see, I can appreciate how that is the choice you made in that moment. To soothe their brain too. It's like if you're going to get an injection from the nurse, they've got to rub your little tush before they put the injection in. And then they even rub it again to give you a little soothing. So therapy, 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 therapy. Mothers in that situation, please, if you're finding that you're a helicopter mom, your son is crying and fussing at you and he stopped talking to you because he is done with the way you're speaking to him, you need to find a good therapist. Very often, parents will come to a therapist and say, my son is acting out. My son is not listening to me. My son is rude. My son, my son, my son. But when you start digging, your son is responding to his environment. And sometimes it's not a huge shift. Again, it could be as simple as setting up an appointment with your son, again, from the time puberty hits, or preteen, right? That little interlude right there, right? Start setting appointments, making time with him, asking him, son, is now a good time for you and I to have a short talk about XYZ? And if he says no is not a good time, respect that no is not a good time for him because you asked. And he's not going anywhere, so you will have that conversation, even if it's tomorrow. Yeah? So you ask him, when is it a better time? And get your answer and follow up. If he says, I'll feel better tonight after I've had my shower, do that. Make time. And then you start off by making this young man right for whatever choice. I can see how you might have thought to do it that way. I can see that. But I felt disappointed by that choice. But I can understand that that's what you thought was your only option or your choice. Hmm? And then you make a request for, what do you think, son, about trying it in this way? And if he says, no, I'm not going to try it in this way, ask him, keep being curious. Well, what do you have to offer as way, by way of a solution? What do you think? So you start teaching your young man to reason and make his own choices and to feel safe making his own choices, because anything we do for the first few times, we're not good at it. So if we wait till they're 17 to start releasing the reins and teaching them how to lead themselves, they're almost out of the door. You want them to make those mistakes while they're with us so we can teach them. And the teaching is not bad boy, bad boy, bad boy, bad boy. Yeah. The teaching is respecting the man's time. Your preteen is a man now. Yeah. Your man who's just hit puberty is a man now. My baby? No, he's not your baby anymore. He's a young man now. Respect the young man's time and set up an appointment. Son, when is it a good time for us to talk about you not making your bed this morning after we've discussed this 20 times? Mom, I never want to talk about it. Well, that's not an option. But you make him right for that. You can say, you have every right to think you never want to talk about it. I can see how that is your answer. Can't you not see how did you enjoy these conversations with your parents? So of course you can understand why that could be his posture about never wanting to talk about it. So make him right. I appreciate that that's your posture, on this. I used to feel the same way when I was a kid. However, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel happy if we clear this up and we talk. Hmm? What do you think about tonight? Make a suggestion. What do you think about tonight at 6 p.m.? Is that a good time for you? Is that convenient for you? And if he says no, ask him, well, what is better? What works better for you? So our conversations now with our children become longer. They might stress us out a little bit more, again, because we're learning a new thing. If we were raised in families where they told us to jump and our next question was how high, what I would say is there's not much value in repeating the errors of our parents. Who's that good for? Who's that good for? To say, well, that's how I learned it, so that's how I'm teaching it. Well, okay. Maybe that's why many of us are fussing at our husbands and saying he's this and he's that and he's not this and he's not that. Maybe they were raised by mothers like that who did not allow them the opportunity to learn leadership skills for long enough time so that they could be really valuable mates to us. Yeah. So that's my session tonight, y'all. And we're almost at 8 o'clock, but I see we have many comments, and I appreciate y'all for showing up. Jess, how are you? Hi, Marvelyn. You're celebrating with the grand. Yes. Hi, Shama. Shama says, as a therapist, I hear this often. And Shama was talking about the impact of cheating dads on daughters when they're adults in relationships. It is a very painful experience for many women, adult women, in their romantic relationships. And they might have a solid, trustworthy, good man, but you come from an experience like this where the person you trusted the most to keep you safe, because that's what daddies do, the person you trusted the most in your entire life, you realize this person is a cheater. Your world blows up. And it takes a long time for many people to put that into a healthy space in their mind. And very often, to really get it there without the bitter taste of, say, mistrust of men altogether, or just feeling like I'll never get into a healthy relationship, or many women will do this as adults. There's a part that's very childlike where uh, it's all or nothing. So he's either a saint today and a sinner tomorrow, the worst man tomorrow. The simplest thing, again, before asking questions, before having long conversations, you do the shutdown thing where, yeah, he's just terrible. He's just a dog. He's just, I knew it. I knew it. He's a human being. He's a human being who's going to make mistakes, but he is not your dad. He's not your dad. And sometimes the person you're really upset with is your dad. And so that's the work that must happen for an adult woman who has had that experience with a father who cheated on their mom. And especially if you got to see your mother's pain, like our mothers are like Virgin Mary, you know, to see your mother suffer and to feel helpless about not being able to help her, and to know that this man who I loved, again, my God representative, is the one who did that. Some people lose their faith in God and in life and in the universe and start thinking, I just can't trust. Again, I'd say be careful with that word trust, because human beings are fallible. So people ought to earn our trust and not just to get it automatically just because they're there or just because they said nice things. No, we have to wait and give them time to see if the words they said, there's something behind their actions, behind the words they said. Hmm? Shama, who's a therapist, says, you're so right. I wonder how attachment style could possibly influence the findings as well. You're right. So many of these ladies develop an insecure, anxious, it's insecure, it's anxious, and it's also ambivalent attachment style, because it's that you're either a saint or a sinner thing. I love you, I hate you. Push, pull. 1 minute, the sun sets in his eyes. The next minute, he's a dog. Based on very little, he didn't pick up the milk, or he talked to you in a way and you were maybe, irritated or whatever. No, he's the worst in the world. As opposed to settling our emotions down. Again, I think when you experience a flooding of your emotions like that, which is a trauma response, it's a response to the terror you felt as a kid, wondering if your family was going to survive. Are we going to break apart? Oh my God. What is happening? Who is this man? Who is this? And our dads can look really ugly in our eyes. And that takes a long time. And sometimes without therapy, it doesn't heal. Sometimes without therapy, that relationship can be broken forever. When that happens, That's deep wounding. That's deep wounding for you now as the girl who you're not staying a child forever. Your body is going to want to mate. You're going to find men attractive. They're going to find you attractive. And the thing in the society to do is to mate up and to have kids and to marry and whatever. So your physical body enters the relationship with a mind that is very wounded, a head and a heart that are very wounded. And yes, you're pretty, you're cute, the little wig nice, the lipstick on, but there's nothing this guy can do that you're not finding a problem with because you're just so sensitive, so tender, hypervigilant. Hypervigilant is a PTSD response. So you're looking and you're waiting. You're just waiting for you're in his phone, the paranoia, you're checking who called him, who didn't call him, who watched him too strong in the market, you know? And sometimes you have really no reason to do that. What you're doing is just a hypervigilant response to what you experienced with your father who was a cheater. So for the dads, a lot of the men in our culture, let me not say a lot, I'm not going to brand our men like that. Some men in our culture in the Caribbean were trained to believe that it is okay to have a piece on the side. Am I wrong with that? Tell me in the chat if you think I'm wrong when I say that. Um, and a lot of our mothers were trained to make the marriage work at all costs, supported by the church, supported by the families, supported by just the culture. So until recently, maybe within the last 10, 15 years, divorce was not a thing. Divorce was not a thing. You got married and you stayed married, regardless of the cheating dad. And so many girls grew up with that model. So, man, if you are the one doing that, yeah, I would encourage therapy to explore, to examine what is that about for you? Because often, again, that's about wounding as a human being. Because if I am not a wounded person, I know good and well that these actions will hurt my mate. So, what is it in me who is willing to take an action that I know will hurt a mate? What does that say about me? That I don't care enough about my mate? Or whatever need is it? Whatever the need is so much bigger than the love I feel for my mate. I have to explore that to see, can I make an adjustment? I'm talking to the cheaters. And we're talking about cheating dads tonight. So please save the text or the, what you call it, the message about the cheating moms for the next conversation about cheating moms. Okay. Good afternoon, cuz you're driving, but you are listening. Yes. Um, Facebook user says, I tend to agree with the lack of trust. It is very difficult to lean into having faith and expectations that a partner will have your back if you have a history of a cheating dad. It takes a lot because many women keep that sense of anxiety and a feeling of not being worthy because they saw the most worthy person, the Virgin Mary of their life. They saw that even that Virgin Mary's dedication was not enough for their God representative to be faithful and loyal. So if that couldn't happen for my Virgin Mary, who am I? Because a lot of us, we're grown up, but we still experience ourselves as a child, as the kid in us, until we do the work. Therapeutic work. Or when you take time to think about yourself and think about your life and what you're going to do, who you want to be in the world. Peto, how are you? Good evening. Shama says, I was guilty of this when I first got married. I felt like I had this image of my dad, and when the truth of his infidelity came to light, my heart was crushed. I'm so sorry. And you said, though, what you did, which was the responsible thing, Shama. Through therapy as an adult, I was able to process through those feelings of worthlessness. Fathers, you do not understand how important you are to your daughters. We, in large measure, gain our sense of worthiness from our dads and the way our dads treat us and are with us and present in the community. We take a lot of pride in my dad. My dad, my dad, my dad is a hero. My dad can fly. My dad can do anything. And so you give us this big hot potato to wrestle with when you cheat on our mothers. So as an adult now, you say, Shama, my relationship with my dad is so much better. Yeah, because you did the work to explore, to understand it, yeah, to separate, to do a lot of separating. And some of it is too is about understanding that your father is a human being who is has got his own flaws and that all of us have our flaws. And sometimes it's a matter of which flaw can I live with? Which flaw you got that I can handle? Because some of it you can't. Okay. That's right. Even the therapist needs therapy too. Yes. Petro says, Hi, daughter Shama. I see you logged in way before me. And Shama says, Hi, mom. Hi, Junie. You're watching and listening. Very interesting. Thank you. Hi, Christine. Christine, y'all. Christine's book is called The Color of Red. Hmm? The Will to Survive. See, I remember it, Christine. Christine was with me last week talking about her book and her traumatic stories and how she processed that and decided to transform her trauma into passion and purpose and power and profit too. Good night, Doc. How are you, Fitz? Hello. Facebook user says, really good one tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night, Deborah. Hi, Evelina. How are you? I'm happy you enjoyed Carnival. Hi, Ingrid. Ingrid says, here's another response. Or they accept bad behavior from male partners because dad modeled it to them. So there is a confusion that can happen between uh, about love, where especially if mom stayed, or mom did not require better after the cheating. Then daughter learns it's a weird, ambivalent thing. Daughter wants to feel special. I want to be chosen. I want that to never happen to me again. But when it happens, it's easier for that daughter to accept bad behavior. It's a lot easier for these daughters to accept bad behavior from the men in their lives because, again, somehow many relationships end up being a place for us to work out our childhood wounds. And so it's almost as if life says, well, here it is, it's showing up again in your relationship. How will you conquer this giant? How will you conquer this giant? And the way you conquer this giant is to do the work. So your work might be to learn to set boundaries, to use your words, to require better, to require more, to say, you have every right to cheat on me, but you have one more time to do this, and I'm out the door. And I'm only staying if we experience therapy together. Yeah. Ingrid says, you're so right. They also had multiple children outside of the nuclear family. Multiple. Some of these men have a whole family elsewhere. Not that you cannot do that, but relationships are about partnership. So if you're going to have a whole family elsewhere, your wife should know I want to create a whole family elsewhere. And your wife ought to be on board with that and say, it's okay. I'm okay with you having a whole family elsewhere. But the duplicitous, the shystiness, the lying, the disrespect, the knowing that everybody in the community is talking about your wife and you do not care enough about your wife and your children to make a different choice or to get the help that you need to figure it out. Yeah, sometimes it borders on psychopathic behavior. my thoughts on that, my emotional response to people having outside relationships to the point where they actually have kids and they have like whole families where everybody knows. Yeah. So it's a lot of discounting of the wife and the children in the home. It's a complete obliteration of their emotional, of their need to be respected and loved and cherished completely. So it becomes just about the pleasure and the satisfaction of the cheating dad. And so, this is my response. What is your response to the understanding that with a clear mind, a person who has the responsibility of leadership in a home actively says, I know this is going to hurt you, my child, my wife, but this is what I want to do. And I want you to stay with me anyway, although you are dying inside. Hmm? You're welcome. Facebook user says, thanks to these sessions, they are much appreciated. Hi, Simone. Good evening. Interesting topic. Thank you so much. So, yes, y'all, to recap, relationships can often be an opportunity for us to recover from the wounds of childhood. And if we are lucky enough to screen well and to communicate well and to keep learning how to communicate better with our mates, we can navigate a lot. We can heal a lot together. Hmm? Those situations I described are very human. If they were not very human, they wouldn't be happening so often. But I think the other part of being human is having Natiwell. Natiwell is in Dominica is a Creole word for agape, love for humanity. Even if it's love on that level, if we are practicing agape love or Natiwell love, and sometimes just basic respect, we can negotiate different choices so that the impact is not so negative on the people we have been gifted to love. Yeah. Okay. This is my offering for tonight. I hope you all have a lovely evening. Tomorrow, please join me 7 o'clock. Join Amma and me. Y'all, I'm so excited about this, right? So everybody knows that the immigrant story is not an easy one. It is not easy to leave everything, to leave the safety of your home and come to a foreign country and create a new life. And many of us start off with very little bit. Many of us start off with very little bit. So I want to start talking and sharing some diaspora stories with people from Dominica who have migrated from Dominica. You might have been gone for a long time, or you might just have left. And I want us to share our stories from time to time so that we can help each other heal, number one, so that we can bust some of the myths, some of the basement related myths. We'll talk more about that basement idea. And to tell the truth about our experiences and to just share our stories. We're storytelling people. We're about Tim Tim Boishesh and Conte. We are storytelling people. We use storytelling therapeutically. And so I want to do that some Friday nights. And the first one is tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Yeah. So I'll see you tomorrow. Have a lovely, lovely evening. Thank you for joining. Okay? Peace. Jayut, stay blessed.